Hey, my name's Rob. I've been making these end grain chopping boards for a while now, and unfortunately they don't always come out perfect. Sometimes there's voids or little cracks in the wood, sometimes there's a little bit of tear out, and it's a shame. There's a lot of work that goes into making these, so to have anything that doesn't look perfect as an end result, it can be disheartening. But I found a few ways to go about fixing that, fixing the voids and the cracks. It does a pretty good job of covering it up. In the past, I've used a blend of, say, yellow beeswax and carnauba wax. They have fairly high melting temperatures. I think it's about 140 degrees Fahrenheit. They also make a white beeswax, which I like to use with the oil I use for finishing the boards. I mix the white beeswax with mineral oil because I feel the yellow beeswax kind of discolors the maple a bit. So I started going with the white beeswax. So those have worked well for me in the past. I've been able to mix about 50-50 carnauba wax to beeswax and melt it into some of the voids in the boards, and it fills them, and it does a nice job, and it scrapes off beautifully with a razor blade. And you kind of see it, but to the untrained eye, most people wouldn't even notice. But it does bother me when it's not the same color as the wood I'm trying to fill. And I suppose I could add pigment and all that sort of thing, but I thought there's another all-natural product out there that comes already pre-colored, and that's these crayons, Crayon crayons. It says right on the back of the box that all their products are non-toxic, and I think we've probably all known a kid or two that ate a crayon and survived. And I know I could use epoxy or some CA glue and activator, things like that, but I figure the whole reason I like wood cutting boards is because they're a natural product. So I hate to introduce something unnatural, something non-food grade, even if it isn't a minute quantity. I know it wouldn't hurt me in the long run, but I feel better using something like wax, where these crayons are already pre-colored and I'm trying to fill a void in some walnut. I have a little hole that goes all the way through the board. I don't know how it happened. When I got it all glued up and finished, flattened and sanded and stuff, I saw this little hole and I said, what am I going to do to fill it? Wax. But wax is a different color than walnut. So I had this brainstorm to use a crayon. So let's find out if it works. And I've already oiled this cutting board with mineral oil, so it's all sealed up. I wax them anyway with beeswax and oil mix, so getting a little wax on the surface melted in isn't an issue. So if I just try to fill the hole, anything that overflows or gets into it will be fine, and it mostly scrapes off with the razor anyway. So I'm going to mix the brown and the black. It's black walnut, and it's got little bits of black grain in there mixed with the brown. It's such a small hole, I don't think it really matters. I think I probably could have got away with either black or brown, but just for fun I'll mix them. And often I melt it in a jar with a heat gun, because the heat gun tends to blow it all around, but I'm going to try and just melt it right on the board, see what happens. So I'm putting all the wax right over the little hole. I'm going to get my heat gun, put it on low from a distance. Feel for that heat. Yeah, it's hot. I just work it down close to the wax and keep it as far as I can so it doesn't blow it all around. Once it starts to melt, it won't blow around. It's melting pretty quick. I'm just going to scrape it around. Melt it some more. I'm just trying to get it to go all the way down through the hole to the other side of the board. I'm not real worried about the maple picking up the color from the wax. It's got such tight grain. I don't think it will. It might. I guess we'll find out. I'm just waiting for it to dry. See if it went all the way through. Not quite all the way through. I'll just melt some in from this side. See a little black residue in the maple. This seems to be doing a pretty good job cleaning it up. Yeah, a slight divot on this side. Melt a little more wax into it. Yeah, it's all but disappeared now. Okay, so there's another small void. It's like just a bit of tear out in the grain. I'll put a little bit of brown wax on there. It's not going to take much. Yeah, that's perfect. It's so smooth now, you can't even feel a little bit of tear out. Yeah, there's one more spot. Let's put a little more brown wax. A little bit. Didn't quite get it all. Just drag it across the void. A little bit of tear out right there. Perfect, perfect. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I appreciate it. I had a few concerns when I started this out. I wasn't sure if the colored wax would leave pigment in the maple. And I'm happy to say it didn't. I was able to scrape it all off with the razor blade, and if it did leave any minute traces behind, it would just look like a variation in the grain. I can't really detect any by looking at it. And the wax seems to be holding up fairly well. In the future, I would definitely mix in some carnauba wax with the crayon, and then I would get the hardness of the carnauba wax. I think that would help in the overall durability of the patch. And this was an excellent board for me to experiment on. I made it with some cutoffs that I had from other boards, and I knew that the pattern didn't align properly, and then as I glued it up, because of the imperfections, I had some cracks, and then I had some tear out. So it was a great board to experiment on, and also it's a pretty thin end grain cutting board. Generally I make an end grain cutting board about 2 inches thick. This is 17 millimeters, so that's just shy of 3/4 of an inch. And I'm curious to see how that holds up after we cut on it and wash it and it dries out a bit and we re-oil it. I just want to know how a thinner board holds up, and I personally like using a thinner board. It's just a lot lighter and easier to grab off the shelf and use and to put away and to wash. It's a more convenient board to use, and if it holds up, that's a cheaper cutting board that you can make and sell, so you can make more boards with the same amount of timber, and maybe that would be an attractive option for some people who don't want to spend more money on a thicker cutting board. Anyways, like I said, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. If you have any comments, I'd be interested to know what they are, so please leave them below. And until the next time, bye.